I was a little overwhelmed, we'll be honest. New
Yeah.
things are always a little overwhelming, and that's normal. I was expecting that. So, referrals, I have received so many. I felt bad at first, honestly, because I know the point is givers gain. Like I'm trying to give here, but I just keep getting so much, and I'm like overwhelmed trying to provide good service to all these referrals that I was receiving. So I did feel a little guilty at first. I have zero doubts. We already have made back the money that we paid to be part of this group. Just following the protocol, I'm having conversations with people, and as I'm hearing things, I'm moving other people's names into the conversation. We did get such a good start from all those referrals, and they continue to come in. So that was another concern, is like, is it going to be a big boom and then nothing? But definitely we've had a consistent flow.
Welcome to the Perfect 100, the podcast for BNI members who want to maximize their membership, deepen their impact, and grow their business through intentional networking. I'm your host, Tammy Zurak, a CliftonStrengths coach, longtime BNI leader, and one of the few members worldwide to maintain a perfect Power of One score. Each week, we'll explore the habits, mindsets, and everyday strategies of BNI members who are turning their membership into momentum. Hello and welcome back to the Perfect 100. I have an exciting guest for you today. Her name is Andrea Jensen. She's with F45. Hi, Andrea. How are you?
Hi, Tammy. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. I'm excited because you are, I think, the first newer, like very new member that I've had on the show. So I have a lot of interesting questions to ask you that I think our members, whether they're new or old, would want to hear about, because you've done some miraculous things already in your membership. So we're going to talk all about those. All right. So I am going to, as soon as I get my timer, I bumped it and it went off of where I needed to be. I'm going to start you. Let's kick it off with your 45 seconds. Go ahead.
All right. My name's Andrea Jensen, and I'm with F45 Training. I hold the fitness chair in the East Memphis chapter. We are a functional training gym specializing in 45-minute group training classes led by personal trainers. Our three pillars are innovation, motivation, and results. Not only is the workout a supportive, fun environment, it is extremely effective. My ideal client is an individual or group who have no current fitness routine or need guidance and accountability to improve their body composition and functional movement capacity. My name is Andrea Jensen, F45 Training.
Awesome. So I think you said, if I heard you right, tell me your title. I think you said something other than your official title.
Oh, I actually don't think I said it. My bad. But I am the head trainer and studio development lead for
Okay.
both the Wolf Chase and Germantown locations.
Okay. I thought that because I think you said fitness. I forget what you said now that you said it, now that I'm asked or trying to repeat it, but which is why it's always good to have, we say these things over and over again, right? Because even though I was listening, it wasn't what I was listening for. I was trying to hear if you were going to say what your actual title was, but you didn't. So then I don't remember what you actually said. So what does that mean? Give us more. What does it mean to be, you're the head director, whatever? Tell me more.
The head trainer's role is to guide and direct the athletics side of the business from an operations standpoint. So the head trainer will coach some classes, but then they are responsible for recruiting and training the other staff to make sure that the member experience is at a quality level that's consistent no matter what class you come to. So that starts from hiring, and we got to make sure people are qualified at a certain level to be able to provide the type of attention that we expect during class. As I said in my 45 seconds, we are personal trainer level attention, so a one-on-one type session, but you're in a group class. So it takes a special kind of trainer to be able to do that in a group setting. And then studio development lead is a catch-all title that means I'm in BNI and a variety of other things, efforts to grow the studios essentially. And I'm sure we'll get into more of this, but my previous experience with F45, it's a franchise company, and I was with a different franchise in California. I was overseeing many locations, 9 total, and that was every hat. every bucket of the business. So coming here to Memphis, I don't have to do all of those things, fortunately, because I have two other managers on the management team. So we're divvying that up, but it just means that I'm responsible for driving the growth of the studios based on my experience.
Yeah, and I think that's important and that's why I asked it, right? Is I think that if somebody just thinks that you're training classes, that's a different set of things potentially than overseeing all the things that you are. And I think that your skill sets, when we get to that point, we're going to talk about your strengths. I think that plays in a lot more to that development piece. So I wanted to kind of highlight that a little bit so people understand kind of where your mind's coming from, and where you're applying your talents. But I want to ask you, because you're new, I think you're 11 weeks in is what I counted. It might be 12 at this point, but let's call it 11 officially. I know that you visited a number of chapters before you decided which one to join. Tell me a little bit about that experience. You don't have to name names outside of the one you joined if you want. But tell us why, what that looked like and how you decided which one to join.
Visited the Bartlett chapter and the Lakeland chapter, and I also visited one of the Germantown chapters, and I do specifically name all of them because they were great. There was nothing wrong with the groups at all. Very welcoming, very positive, well-run meetings. It was just more of a geographical as well as the diversity of the actual members at the East Memphis chapter that was going to serve the two studios best. I have kind of a unique situation where I have two separate businesses that I'm representing, and they both need to be served by my efforts. And geographically, East Memphis is in between the two of them. And then based on those members that are in the chapter and their specific reaches, East Memphis made the most sense compared to the other ones that I visited.
Gotcha. And you have you're in the health and wellness sphere that we have. I don't think there are many people that do what you do in the other chapters. So I'm curious about your experience, right? So when you say that diversity of, the makeup of the people in the room mattering, I know we have, people on that team in our chapter. Was that a kind of a influencer, if you will, or was it other, just kind of what were the things ish?
Yes, the groups that are more trades oriented, they're a little bit harder for me to have a good referral partner with, just because that type of industry is more I'm in and I'm out. I'm not conversing with the person necessarily. The homeowner might not even be there when they go to do the work. And so for them to be able to network for me is harder. And I don't think that's exactly fair on my side to
Right.
ask those people to, be striking up conversation and whatnot to benefit my business. And a couple of the other chapters have previously had fitness representatives, and that was going to be difficult because there is some loyalty there. And fitness, I am well aware, is I like my person and I'm going to stay with my person type industry, and that's okay. If someone did a great job and they're no longer in the chapter, but people are still loyal to them, I'm not going to try and step on those toes.
Sure. Yeah. So it's an interesting, whenever somebody asks me, I work with people all over the world. I've worked with a lot of different photographers, and but outside of photography, it doesn't matter what people do. I always encourage people to join BNI, and they always ask me which one should I join, and I said, there's a couple different things you should be looking at, right? What is the makeup of the people in the room? Excuse me, sorry. And so what is the vibe? What do you feel when you get there? And who are your best referral partners, right? So each of those things matters. No matter, everybody can be great, but it depends on who's in the room, and it depends on how they make you feel. So it's just like anything, to like any business, right? Is if I walk into two different places that do the same thing and one makes me feel good and one doesn't, I'm probably going back to the one that makes me feel good. So that's always a good thing to bring up. So because again, you're newer, I want to talk to me a little bit about your first couple of meetings. What do you remember feeling? How were those? How did those go when you very first started?
I was a little overwhelmed, we'll be honest. New things are always a little overwhelming, and that's normal. I was expecting that. The group was extremely welcoming and helpful. from that aspect. I have a close partner with Tiffany Clemis. She's been amazing guiding me through things, but very quickly Tim Flessner stepped in, you stepped in, Jonathan stepped in, Laura Cantrell, a lot of people came alongside me to say, hey, how can I help you? How can I support you? And that was really awesome. And not even all those people are on like the visitor or the new welcoming member committee. So that just speaks to the chapter and how collaborative each of the members are and supportive of the chapter, especially the new people. I loved seeing when I was visiting as well as a brand new member, loved seeing the business that's being passed and was excited in my first couple meetings. Like, I'm going to be in these numbers. I'm going to be in these reports, and how do I get to the top? And well, I'm sure you'll love getting into that with my strengths.
Yes. We're definitely going to talk more about
So
that.
yeah. So
Well,
of course, a little touch of overwhelmed, but very excited at the same
okay.
time and feeling very well supported.
Yeah, and so several of those people are on what would be in your contact sphere, and the rest of them are serve in some capacity of leadership. So I think it's great to hear that that's, it's meant to be that way. Whether or not that happens everywhere is a whole nother story, but it's, the things that make or break how you come into, I think that it's like anything when you start something new, if you start a new job, how you feel in those first 90 days is really what makes a bigger impact it sets the stage for how things are going to go later. So that said, have you had any doubts about whether or not this is going to work for your business as you've been starting, you're kind of new into the thing. So have you had any doubts, or have you felt like you've got momentum going? How does that look?
I have zero doubts. We already have made back the money that we paid to be part of this group. I report my money on a monthly basis, and we're a membership-based business, so we needed about $700 to be able to make our money back in 2 months. So we
Okay.
got more than that in the first month, and we're continuing to grow. And that's really just from direct members within the group, within the chapter. And I know we're not supposed to join with the intention of getting our business from the chapter, but organically it's happened. And naturally people are then sharing it to their friends, family, and business relations because they've come and tried it. And my intention with people coming to try it was not to sign them up as members, but that's just the nature of F45. People love it.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you come and you try it, and as long as, medically it's a good fit for you, most people are going to want to stay for at least our lowest membership rate. And then they have that experience to go tell people about when they are doing their own business connections and trying to find referrals for me. So
Yeah, that's
no doubts
awesome.
at all.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love hearing that. All right, well, let's look at the results so far. So we'll go ahead and roll into your power of one. And it says 10 weeks up so 10 weeks were measured for this, because this is through the end of July, and we're into the middle of June. I'm sorry, through the end of June, and we're into July, so it's a little bit past that. But the 10 weeks that you were measured, you have a score of 80 in the green. And so your 80 or your 20 in all of the areas, the only one that you don't have points in is visitors, and you're 10 weeks in at that point. So that isn't a concern. In fact, that if you would have, I think you've actually had a visitor because if we roll into your PALMS report, let's show that now too. It says that you have, so if we go across, so or present rather is you've been present or had a sub for all the meetings. Referrals given inside, you had 7. Referrals given outside, you had 4. Referrals received inside, you've had 8. Referrals received outside, you've had 8. Visitors, you had 1. One-to-ones, you've had 21 in that measured 10 weeks. And then thank you for closed business. You don't have any yet, but again, that's not an expectation for as early as you are. And then 11 CEUs. So in all of that time, you've done a lot of stuff. So talk to me about, you said you turned in your numbers to, where you're working. And this is an impressive start for somebody new. So I'm curious, what drove you to, were you looking at this, or were you just automatically just doing the things? How did this all come about that you're green, you're on track to do all the things that we recommend you do to be successful? Tell me more.
Attendance wise, that one up front, I knew when I committed to this was I am reserving Wednesdays for this purpose, and I've done that consistently. I was concerned about it at first, but I fortunately run the schedule for our two businesses. So I just cleared mine for Wednesdays to make sure that I'm always here. And then I have had one visitor and a sub, and well, I guess I'll talk about the subs first. Apologies. I made sure that I had someone lined up when I knew I was going to be out of town. So that was taken care of. And then rolling into, what is the next one on the list? I like going in order.
Well, you've had referrals. I mean, we talked about, well, for the Power of One, attendance, referrals, visitors, one-to-ones, and CEUs.
Okay. So referrals, just following the protocol. I'm having conversations with people, and as I'm hearing things, I'm moving other people's names into the conversation. But that ties with the one-to-ones because I wanted to make sure I got on top of meeting and getting to know each person so that I am better equipped and educated to give them referrals. I have received so many. I felt bad at first, honestly, because I know the point is givers gain. Like I'm trying to give here, but I just keep getting so much, and I'm like overwhelmed trying to provide good service to all these referrals that I was receiving. So I did feel a little guilty at first, but we've caught up now, and we're starting to give more referrals along with the ones that I am receiving. So I appreciated that immensely, that we did get such a good start from all those referrals, and they continue to come in. So that was another concern, is like, is it going to be a big boom and then nothing? But definitely we've had a consistent flow. So that's
Okay.
very, very good.
So
And
you
I
said a
love the
couple.
one-to-ones.
Oh, go ahead. Well, okay.
I,
So you said a couple things in there that I wanted to highlight. You said the protocol. So the protocol as given to you by you following the protocol to do all the things that you're supposed to do. How did you know what the protocol was?
well, I went to the MSP 2.0, or I did the MSP 2.0.
Yes.
And then there was a webinar as well at first
For new
that I had to
visitor.
sign up for.
I mean,
Yep.
new members rather. The new
New
member.
members.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting what it's called. But yeah, there's a weekly call with Jenny Butts on a new
Yes.
member. Yes. To new members to get
Yes.
up to speed. I cannot for the life of me remember. It'll come to me later. But yeah.
Yes. So I
New
attended
member
that
essentials.
webinar.
Essentials.
Yes. New member essentials. So I attended that webinar, took notes on it because, like I said, the overwhelming portion of anything new, you got to take notes. That's what I have to do so that I can sort through it and organize it and make sure I'm prioritizing things. And then also working through the passport. We didn't have the passport book at first when I was the first few weeks in. So once I received that, I kind of went back and talked to a few of the people that I had already had a one-to-one with and had them guide me through. Michelle Wilson was the first one that really sat down and walked me through all the steps of that. So I appreciated her for that. And then in our one-to-one as well, you did very similar, making sure that I was continuing on that path. So the leadership team is doing a great job of making sure that our new people are getting the support that they need, and not from a overly helicopter parent type perspective.
Well, that's good to know. I think that a lot of just from being around a long time and seeing other chapters, I know that stuff gets missed a lot. Kind of shepherding a new person along through all the things, and not everybody. You took a lot of that. I mean, the ownership is on you to do the things. We give you the guidance and the protocol, as you use the word, to these are the things you should do, but that still means you have to do them. So I think that there's probably a strength that you have that that also plays into these things being accomplished, which is in large part says a lot about you, which is amazing. Join the Art Academy in Memphis. Master the skills needed to create stunning, realistic oil paintings. With expert instruction, you'll refine your craft, Enroll today at artacademyofmemphis.com. You also said, which I thought was interesting, is that you felt guilty receiving a lot. Because, it's an interesting thing is when you shower somebody with what they need, I don't think I've ever thought of it in that way, that we might be making you feel guilty, which is maybe a good touch point or a conversation that we should be having with new people, is if they happen to be so fortunate to receive a lot up front, is taking their temperature, how are things going? And if they are feeling guilty, then supporting them in their journey to make sure that they're giving back. And you're not actually the first person that said that to me. Also, but not from the aspect of receiving a lot, but more so not giving enough. I think that a lot of new people feel like they hear us all talking about what we've passed at the end of the meeting, and they start to feel guilty, like, am I going to be able to contribute enough? So that you're kind of the opposite end of the guilt, but it's probably a good touch point that we need to have those conversations with people so we can help them and move forward in their journey. So do you feel like you've changed things from sort of the beginning? I know you're not that far in, but I can see an evolution of how you're doing BNI, for lack of a better way of putting it, executing on BNI. Do you feel like you've made some changes? And tell me more about what those look like if you recognize the difference.
Yes, I do. I have had enough time now to more so perfect my 45 seconds, understanding better how to craft my words when I'm having one-to-ones, or, appreciate it, taking our 20 seconds to convey our thank you for closed business, and learning some of the things we shouldn't have been saying that maybe we were at the beginning when I first joined. Taking that 20 seconds, especially to not just, you know, the words are escaping me of some specifics, but
Yeah. Well, I
there
think you're
was a
talking
couple.
about at the end where we're supposed to talk about what we gave. We're supposed to talk about thank you for closed business or give a testimonial. It's the I have portion of the meeting. So we're not supposed to talk about, and Ivan Meisner does a podcast on, and I don't remember the number because I don't memorize the numbers, but there's a podcast on that I have portion. It's supposed to be outward, right? It is the I have you want to support somebody else. It's not what you're doing or what you're getting. It's not is it thank you for closed business? It is thank you for closed business, but it's meant to be the thank you for closed business is what you've received. And the giving a testimonial to someone in the room. And I think that people, because they haven't done business with somebody, or they haven't done enough, they're not passing referrals. Actually, that's what it's supposed to be. Sorry, my brain's a little, I'm not connecting all the dots today either. Is we're talking about the referrals that we've given, or we're giving a testimonial. So if they don't have anything to give, then because they maybe haven't done a one-to-one, or maybe their one-to-one didn't net anything that week, then they don't know what to say. So they fill the space. And, the idea is to support others, not what we're doing, in that moment. He will talk about it better in his podcast. So I will try to link that below when we post this next week. All right. And have you felt like, because I am hearing your evolution as as the weeks go by, because we're obviously in the same chapter. Do you feel like can you think of a specific that you've asked for and received in your 45 seconds?
Yes. When I've asked for either chiropractors or physical therapists as direct referrals, I have had good results on those. I have received verbal confirmation of one, if not two, of my other asks, which would be a HR director or wellness director for a couple of the larger corporations in the greater Memphis area. And verbally, someone said, like, text me, I've got that,
Yes.
or, I'll connect with you afterwards or later. And so that's just a matter of follow-up. Everyone is busy and working on a lot of things, so that's nothing negative towards anyone who's approached it in that way. But I personally find, and I'm finding that in those situations, I'm going to stop right then and say, do you have a moment? Can we do that right now?
Yes.
Instead of letting it go by and then potentially not getting that follow up as soon as could have.
Yeah, that happens a lot too. And in fact, I think that moment, the thing you asked for is the same thing I also need. And someone in the room had a connection. So my ears, popped up also in that moment. And I had the same scenario, but I ended up doing something. I had another meeting right after the meeting, so I didn't have time to connect to that person. So that's the hard part, right? Is we're all doing our thing. So we have to, again, sort of take the onus on ourselves to say, okay, somebody raised their hand. Now I need to seek them out and get that thing
Yes.
done. So I think that some of your success probably is rooted in your strengths. So let's go over to those and talk about those a little bit. So I'm going to read off the top 5 for those that are not able to see the screen. So your number 1 is responsibility. You take psychological ownership of what you say you will do. You are committed to stable values such as honesty and loyalty. Number 2 is achiever. You work hard and possess a great deal of stamina. You take immense satisfaction in being busy and productive. Number 3 is arranger. You can organize, but you also have a flexibility that complements this ability. You like to determine how all the pieces and resources can be arranged for maximum productivity. And that is a new one for the podcast. So of the previous guests, nobody's had that. So we're going to come back and talk about that more in a minute. Number 4 is learner. You have a great desire to learn and want to continuously improve. The process of learning rather than the outcome excites you. And number 5 is strategic. You create alternative ways to proceed. Faced with any given scenario, you can quickly spot the relevant patterns and issues. So tell me about when you got this, how did you feel about what you were reading?
Well, I read through the top 5 and it just said, well, that tracks.
Yep. Seems
I,
to be the common denominator for everybody is, yep, that's pretty much me, right?
yeah, very
So
much.
because the top 5, when you do your top 5, they are interspersed with the rest of them. The reports that you receive are unique to you for the top 5. The feedback that you get in the report is unique to you. So one of the things that popped up, and I did ask Andrea about this before we got on here to talk about it live, but one of the things that came up under achiever, now I have achiever also. My achiever, it's not in my top 5. I have to look at my sheet. It's at number 10. So I feel that achiever thing, which is, I think you said something earlier, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but wanting to do all the things and meet the targets is that's high up for you, right? Does that play into your power of one, do you think?
Definitely. Yeah, from grade school, I was expected to get good grades. I wanted to get them too, but
Right.
that was in my formative years very much drilled in, and I've carried that into adulthood, and it's a good thing. Might have been a little bit of pressure as a kid, but
Right.
but
I've
it
had that
bodes
too.
well.
Yeah.
And definitely, yes, I mean, I want to do well because that's the point of why we're doing this. I
Right.
want to get the most out of it. And it's not about personal pride, it's about doing a job well so that you can get the outcome from it.
Yeah, well, and I think everybody, for the most part, everybody's parents really want them to do well, right, and get good grades. And I had that as well. I felt pressure to, achieve, and I haven't tested it with my parents, but I'm gonna guess that my dad probably has achiever in his top 5 because I definitely have those. That's a thing that was drilled into me also as a child. But one of the things, so I was reading yours, and one of the points that it made I thought was kind of interesting. It says, I'm just going to read it. It's very likely that you probably expend a lot of energy to hold back your tears. You worry that individuals will think poorly of you when they see you cry. How did that hit for you?
It's accurate. The one part I don't necessarily 100% agree with is that I think people will think less of me if I cry. I'm okay if someone sees me cry, but I am in a position where I need to be the strong one a lot of the time. So if I cry, I'm not the strong one anymore.
Right.
And now who's it plays into my responsibility strength of who's the one holding everything together now,
Right.
because the leader's not. So
Right. Right. Yes.
so that's actually something that I have worked on in my adult life, is feeling more of my emotions, and when tears are there, it's okay to let them out in certain situations. I think professionally, I still will hold back most of the time, and I guess from that perspective, yes, I'm going to hold it back in a professional meeting or setting, because I need to be respected by the people I'm working with. And honestly, as a female in a leadership role, it's hard sometimes, because we do have to, there is still a slight bias towards men in leadership, and it's getting much, much better, but we still do have to hold our own in rooms, and that can be difficult sometimes, and being female and having emotions that show is not
Yes.
always beneficial.
Yes, yes. Well, and I think that's why that stood out to me, right? Is that I worked in a male-dominated industry. I worked in automotive for a very long time, and that movie, the Tom Hanks movie, "There's No Crying in Baseball." That always was the line in the back of my head. There's no crying in automotive or anywhere else where there's a bunch of men. And
Yep.
so you just kind of suck it up and hold it in, and that's the way it is. Because to your what you said is, I felt the same way. Is you kind of diminish. It feels like you're diminishing your power, especially, I'm older than you. So back in the day,
You
that,
are?
yeah, a little bit. The times have changed a little, but we're still not all the way there yet, so to speak. But that was definitely something I felt, is we have to contain some of that to be perceived as powerful. And I'm not sure how that plays into BNI, because actually I feel like we have a very, we're more, one of the more diverse groups, at least in our chapter. We have a lot of women. We have, people of color. We have a little bit of everybody, which is amazing, because not all the groups have that. And that feels sometimes a little bit different. And I think that's maybe an important point for people. If you're in your chapter, um, and people are walking in, it feels different when not everybody is represented in the room. So even though we're in 2025, if you're listening to this later, we're in 2025, because the internet lives forever. But we're still not kind of all the way there yet. So it's important to find a diverse group of people to make everybody welcome, so that because our clients, quite frankly, are all different, right? As we want to attract people into our businesses that have a diverse set of everything. So we need to have people in the room that are going to help us do that. And it's harder to do that if you don't have that represented. So thank you for taking that little side journey with me.
Of course.
Appreciate that. But let's go back and talk about a ranger, because that is a new one that you're the first one that's been on the podcast that has had that. So arrangers are conductors. You like to look at people as a whole and then mix and match strengths. It's kind of a little bit what I do although that's not one of my arrangers in the middle. Actually, it's a little bit low. It's 22. So arranger isn't something I naturally. That's not one of the top things I look to. I look at other things, but you have a team of people that are, that report to you. So you're kind of orchestrating them to do all the things. And usually people who have arrangers like to look at people and maybe delegate things that they think they can handle. Is that true for you?
Absolutely. I was needing to do that. This is a perfect example. I was needing to do that with my new group that I work with now, as far as our staff goes. But I needed time to be able to get to know them. For those of you that don't know, I've only been in Memphis for about 6 months now, 7 months. So this is a new group for me, new staff, new skill sets, and new membership bases. Every studio has its own heartbeat, and you have to get to know them, because yes, there is a template for running them, but they're not all going to be exactly the same. So it was perfect timing that I did this CliftonStrengths assessment, and I was already formulating it in my head of how I was going to approach this kind of 2.0 rearrange that we're about to do. And It just nail on the head, the whole arranger concept. I had already printed out a sheet that we have from F45 that has a list of tasks that need to be divided amongst whoever's doing them. And so took that as an exercise into a meeting and went through and said, this is you, this is you, this is you. And this was post a interview, if you will, with each of them of ideal world, what would you be doing here? How would you like your job to appear? What would make you happiest in the space? And I can't promise everything, but what I can do, I will.
Right.
And so that, collecting data, analyzing it, assigning according to that data, the whole arranger concept was spot on. And I loved that it incorporated the flexibility portion that you organize, but it's not so rigid because you know that there is some fluidity needed. That part really spoke to me.
You'll rearrange and rearrange and rearrange until you get it right, right? Until it feels like it's where it needs to be, and then maybe something will change and you'll rearrange it again because that's what you're talented at. And all
Yes.
the while you were talking, all those things, if you put BNI a chapter side by side with all those things you just said, is literally how we run a chapter. And if we don't have someone doing all the things, then nothing gets done, right? And we can't all, because we elect a president, so to speak. We don't actually elect. We put somebody volunteers, and then we decide, are they the right person for the ELT, the executive leadership team, the top three. We say these are the people we think would do well in this role, and we nominate in the chapter potentially, are these the right, who do we see maybe being our leader? But they then oversee an entire group of people who are membership committee, people who you mentioned, all the people you mentioned do a role, right? They are the mentor coordinators, they are the education people, they are all the things. They run the passport, they teach you how to do all the things. So each chapter has to be made up of someone who does all of those different things. And when only one or two step up, which happens a lot in a lot of different chapters, is only a couple people will step up to try to do things. So then some things just don't get done, and then they're not as effective. So I love that you're bringing all that into your business. And I'd love for people that are listening to think about how could you bring that into your chapter. I feel like we do that in our chapter. In fact, we're about to embark on the newest leadership team, and I offered to do a class where all of the members who have done their CliftonStrengths are going to come in, and we're going to sit down and talk about what does this look like, because each of us holds some different set of things, and how we operate those things together in a collaborative way, because we don't work for one another, not in a formal way. We do work for one another we've all agreed to help support each other in our business growth, which I think we all hold pretty, that dear about that. We want to make sure everyone is successful. So I love that. I got a ton of people that want to do that with me. And so I love that you're coming, right? So you're
Well,
going
I'm
to be,
coming.
yeah, you're going to help out because you can see that naturally. And, so that's a gift that you have that not everybody else does. So I love that you're going to be a part of that and that we can move forward together. All right. So have you kind of taking your own set of things and applying that back to BNI? Have you felt like any of those have really, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, but have you felt like any of those things really tied into what you're doing with your membership?
Yes, absolutely. Um, I just, this CliftonStrengths really helped me to kind of mentally organize. Goes back to a ranger,
Right.
um, but also a little of the strategic side. We have to navigate a lot of different moving parts in everyone does in their business, but the way that ours works, I feel like is a little bit unique, and we're having to work with people to deliver a product, and it is something that everybody needs, but they don't necessarily understand that they need it. And so we have to be able to make a connection with them. And I'm curious, I may opt to get the rest of my results because I do have to do a lot of personal connection with people. And while I love that part, it's not my top five, clearly. And I do prefer to be operating in my top five versus the rest of it. Not that I don't love people. I hope that didn't come off the wrong way.
No, I
I
totally get you. Yeah. So your top five, the first three are executing themes and the second two are strategic themes. So you can't be all the things to all the people all the time. All right. And because I have one, my number two is relator, which is a relationship building theme, but the rest are all the other three in my top 10. And you default to what you're good at. It's not that you don't care about people. You just get things done differently. You create relationships through execution, not through, your go-to isn't winning others over. It is, let me work with you. Responsibility is you do what you say you're going to do. And that's a relationship, to me, that's a relationship building thing. Because if you and I meet and you say you're going to do something and then you don't, now our relationship's going to suffer a little bit, right? But if you do, it's kind of like what you said earlier about feeling guilty. If you do what you said you were going to do, and it was something that was of a benefit to me, then I'm going to feel more tied to making sure I give you some, to work towards helping you more. It's just the way humans are. That's a relationship, right? Is I feel bound now because clearly you get me and you're trying to help me, and now I want to do the same for you. And that's, a big part of how we all work in BNI is whether it's conscious or not, it's just part of how it is. But it doesn't mean just because you don't have a blue in your top five that you don't like people.
Staying ahead in a world driven by technology is key. At Wisdom Integrators, we don't just solve problems, we create opportunities. Wisdom Integrators, connecting your world, solving your problems.
And I do want to talk about, because I've been doing this podcast for a little while now, I'm starting to feel uniquely, I guess, about the experience that people are having. So I'm working towards creating something for BNI members that I think is almost a next level. And it plays into what I do as a coach, a business coach. I'm a coach in BNI, but it plays into really what I'm doing with the CliftonStrengths and coaching. And I'm going to call it the strengths powered networking. I think that there's some value in, I help small businesses build by doing all the framework of things that they didn't do. They might have missed, 10 steps before they started doing the thing. If you have high execution, you're just executing. You're not doing all the things you need to be successful. So stay tuned, because I'm going to be coming up with more for if you really want to take your BNI membership to the next level and you're really not sure how to operate that. That's something I'm going to be offering down the line. So I digress. So what does the future, do you think? Because again, you're newer. What in terms of BNI, what do you think the future's what do you see on the down the line a little bit? How do you think it's going to progress for you?
I think we're going to keep growing as far as the referral network. It's always going to be a little bit slower to get started, and I think that was in one of our education pieces early on too, is to be patient, because it takes a while to start making those first few connections, and then the ripple effect will grow and grow. And we have already had so much interest, as I already said, and that's just going to continue, because now all these people that have at least tried it, if not joined themselves, are able to effectively tell other people about it. I'm getting more efficient about how to talk to people individually in one-to-ones as well as in the group setting. And I'm starting to get more comfortable with the types of people to talk to when it comes to visitors. That was one of my low scores, obviously, on the POMS report. And I actually have somebody coming this week. Yay.
Nice.
But being able to meet people here in Memphis, given that I'm new, has been a struggle of mine, because I don't already have an existing network of people. And then coming up with new ways to be able to expand the network. I actually just spoke with my management team, and we're going to start implementing a monthly newsletter. We've had kind of a weekly info going out, but it's not been as specific to our community as it could be. And so we're going to kind of shift the focus of that to more of a community-based newsletter. And that's going to incorporate a member of the month, a staff spotlight of the month, as well as who's our community partners this month, and highlighting BNI members in that to our group of right now 300 plus members that are going to
Okay.
be receiving this. And being able to get people's names out in creative ways. It probably goes into a little of the strategic as well as the arranger of how can I do this better to get more referrals for people in BNI, and then conversely, they're just coming. So I'm not having to do a whole lot when it comes to getting referrals coming in. I just need to continue to capitalize on them as they come in and making sure that we're establishing those connections with people. And it just keeps going. It just
Okay.
keeps going.
That's a good thing. Yeah, it's funny. You never can really know what may or may not work to bring you both visitors and or referrals for people. And I'm always, I just am naturally a connector. I have that built into my DNA. I've always been curious since I was a child. I remember my mom saying, "Wow, you ask a lot of questions," because that's just who I am. And if I don't ask questions, I cannot find you referrals. That's just the way it works, right? So I ask everybody I meet everywhere what they do, and if they're married, what does their spouse do, and all the things that kind of I just like to dig a little deeper and get to know people, and it doesn't come off. I don't think it comes off as strange because I'm just very curious and interested in people. So that my relator is I like to go number two. I like to go deep with people and get to really know them, and I think that just lends to that is when people ask you a bunch of questions about yourself, that lights you up a little bit because, oh, you're really interested. You care about, like, you're standing in front of me and you're paying attention to me and you care about what's going on with me. And um, my husband's business has a lot of people coming in and they're learning how to paint. And so there's only one bathroom where they can wash their brushes. And so they have to stand and wait sometimes to get in line to do that. And I put up people that I believe that are good referral partners. I put up their information if they've given it to me, and that turns into referrals. It's already turned into referral. I couldn't believe it. Somebody asked me the other day, "Hey, I saw that thing back there. Is that somebody you know?" And I'm like, "Yes, I know them really well." And that turned into a referral. So you just never know how it's going to come to you. But the more things you try, the more likely you are to get them, right? If you don't try anything, then you're probably not going to receive anything. So
Yeah,
love that.
absolutely.
All right. So what would you be if you could think of a member who's listening to this right now? You've had good success. You've started off strong, and it sounds like you're going to continue strong. So what if somebody was listening to this was just treading water? What they're showing up every week, but they don't feel like they're they're not getting the BNI experience, so to speak. What would you tell them? What advice would you give them?
I would honestly say set up a one-to-one with someone, but let them know, hey, I just need your help. I'm not getting this, or I'm struggling with that, or I feel like I didn't get enough instruction on how to optimize this, whether it's with you or another member who seems like they are doing well, they have a good score, weekly score, but just ask for help. Just ask.
Yeah, that's half the battle, right?
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay to not get everything, and it's okay to not have the intrinsic ability to figure it all out. It's a lot. There's a lot going on. I was able to download the information, organize it, and then execute because that's
Right.
what I do, clearly.
Yes. Yes.
But other people don't have that skill set, and it's okay. Like, you don't have to have it all figured out on your own. That's why you're in a group of people. So just
Right.
ask.
And if you could go back to week one and tell your past self in, 11, 12 weeks ago something, what would you tell them now that you've had a little bit of insight, a little further out? What advice would you give yourself?
I would have given myself more time earlier, carved out more time on a weekly basis just to be able to not feel stressed about how much do I need to figure out in what amount of time. And that, I would have needed to ask for a little bit of help from a couple other people to allow for that to happen. And that might be one of my downfalls is I don't ask for help as often as I should.
Right.
But it means we get things done and we do eventually get there. So that is something I would say is earlier on in your journey to just make sure you're allowing yourself enough time and asking the questions to get yourself off on the right foot and give yourself grace. It's a process. It's a new thing. It takes your brain time to process it.
Yeah, and you did, I'm just looking at your palms. You did 4 one-to-ones your second week, 1 your third week, 3 your fourth week. So you were piling in a lot of information and a lot of people all at the beginning, which isn't necessarily, did you do that of your own volition, or like why did you do so many one-to-ones in the first couple of weeks?
I had so many people reaching out to me wanting to do one-to-ones. I
Okay.
didn't initiate half of those. I think I
Okay.
maybe initiated one of them.
Okay.
And so that was, again, that overflow, overwhelm of interest in our business. So that was a great thing. And I was able to talk a lot about F45 in those meetings. And then either we set up another one-to-one to talk about the second business, or we were able to talk about it enough in that first one-to-one. But it was people coming to me and wanting to get one-to-ones with me. And
Okay.
I did want to get to know people as quickly as I could, because I feel like there is a complacency factor that can happen if you're not staying on top of it and eager to get going. You kind of miss the wave to ride, if you will. So using that initial energy and excitement is a good thing, but I wasn't anticipating so much interest right off the bat. So it was a good problem to have.
Yes, well, and the reason I bring it up is because we do that also is, we do have people like you where there's a big interest at the first, at the start of your membership, and then that overwhelm, we can almost work you out of the meeting, because if you were a single owner HVAC person, and you got all of that interest at the front end, somebody's got to do the work, and that would be you in this case. If you were just a one owner, you have a team of people, so that's great. But for other people, when we're bringing them in, we have to be mindful that we don't overload them so much that they can't handle it, and they don't that guilt, like the thing that we talked about earlier, comes up for them is, you've given me all this work and I have to do the work, so that means I can't meet with you. At some point that we get that roller coaster effect of tons of work, no work, tons of work, no work, and they're not contributing to everyone else, where they feel guilty, and then they end up just leaving because they don't feel like they can manage all of it at once. So being mindful that when we bring new people in, we probably need to help them set up a plan. This is what it should look like. We really encourage, we should be encouraging one-to-one a week. The passport that you mentioned earlier is designed for one-to-one a week. Now, can people do more than that? Yes, but we just want to make sure to warn you, and it depends on everybody's unique and individual. As you may have the time to do plenty more than that. That's great, but just understand, we want you to be wary of the fact that that could be too much, right? And you don't know enough. Your one-to-ones will be more effective when you know more. Later on, to your point, you said that also, is you kind of get a rhythm and you figure out what to say and how to make it more effective. But your first couple of ones in anything, it's like when your first sales call, if you're in sales in a new job, is a disaster. You don't see it that way necessarily, and maybe you even get the sale, but it is definitely not what you would put your best face forward. You don't want to go, we always, in sales, in my background, we tell people not to go to their biggest potential client in the first week or second week or third week even, because you're going to maybe burn that opportunity because you don't know enough, and what you would say later would be different if you knew better.
Yes,
So
definitely.
maybe we need to bring that into BNI too. So we'll talk about that. That's good stuff there. I love that. All right. So what's new or upcoming in your business that you're excited about?
Well, we are implementing some new processes that are going to help with our retention efforts that I'm very excited about. The studios are doing well. They've been growing ever since I joined the team, so that's exciting to see from a reporting standpoint. I track all the KPIs. I do that too. Wear that hat.
Right.
But it's important that we have that data so that we can make decisions according to it. So, but that's very exciting. We are very close to the first threshold that we set as far as growth goals. And that's going to be a wonderful day because it means a lot to the business owner and the team, obviously. And they tell me at least once a week how grateful they are that I fell in their laps because I did kind of just fall in their lap. And so we're really, really excited about that from a growth standpoint. We're excited about the new processes that we're going to be implementing for retention. It's just going to add more value and increase the quality of what we provide to our members and increase the depth of the community. We're excited about continuing to do some more larger community events. That's part of our culture calendar, if you will,
Okay.
that we're working on implementing more of. Just things that don't even have to do with the gym necessarily. It's just opportunities for the community to get together and either support one of our members at one of their local businesses, or like for instance, we just did a Redbirds game, which I need to ask you about because Zach Crow did say that he input the thank you for closed business, but it's not showing up on my reports yet. So
Okay. That's probably just because the report hasn't been processed in the back end. That will happen is for again, if you're listening and don't know why that happens, is every week the vice president processes a report. If they happen to be out of town that week, then the report probably didn't get processed. That means that those numbers don't show up. So that's probably most likely what's happening. But you will be able to see that personal palms that I showed you earlier. You can always go back into Connect and look at your own personal palms and see if it's come through, or he can. So if you have somebody, if you've given something or someone's given you something and you're not seeing it, the first person to ask is the VP, have they processed the report?
yeah, sounds good. So I know that's coming. So that's going to be nice to see on my report as well that I am contributing. I'm giving
Yes,
back.
yes.
So that was a really great opportunity for us, though, and a big win from a BNI standpoint that we were able to support one of the members with a significant purchase. And my team had an excellent time. I actually wasn't even able to go to the event because I was traveling and there was a flight cancellation. However, Zach did an amazing job taking care of our team. Great communication with me, even though I wasn't even in the state, and they had a wonderful time and the members really enjoyed it. So that was very fun. An opportunity that we wouldn't have had otherwise had BNI not been in the picture, because we wouldn't have been connected with Zach in the same way. And so really, really grateful for that and looking forward to more opportunities where we're able to support each of the people within BNI because they're supporting us too. So
Right. Yeah. Well, and I love that. I can't remember a specific that I can tell you about, but I know that we've done events with other businesses where they have a space, so they want to get people into the space so people see it, and they do events that are BNI related, so that gets more people, so it plays well into that cross chapter stuff. There's opportunities to grow your network by bringing people into your space by doing events if you're trying to do more events. So there's probably some synergy there with that. So that would be awesome. All right. So I started this thing where the last guest leaves a question for the next guest. So the question that was left, yeah. So the question, I'm going to ask you to leave one for the next one. But the question that was left for you is, besides CEUs, one-to-ones, and weekly BNI meetings, do you set aside a routine time to engage in BNI networking and marketing strategies? Or are there other activities you do to support your chapter, like inviting visitors or attending chamber meetings?
who on earth left me that?
Well, you'll have to go watch the podcast to find out who was before you.
Okay. Well, I'm caught up on all but one, so I'm sure I'll find out soon. Okay, so besides CEUs, one-to-ones, and the weekly meetings, do I set aside time?
Routine time to engage in BNI networking or marketing strategies, or the other piece of it was, or are there activities you do to support the chapter? So basically, do you have a plan that you execute because you're an executor? Do you have a plan that you set aside time for things you need to do for BNI, or are you doing other things outside of the meeting to support the chapter?
Okay, so yes and yes. I do set aside time either on Sunday or Monday, 15 minutes, 30 minutes maybe, just depending on how much I have, to make sure that I have gone over everything from the previous week, any follow-ups that I need to take care of, anything that I need to schedule with people into the next week. And making sure that I, taking time before Wednesday at 11 o'clock and putting things frantically into
Right.
Connect.
Yes.
Because I don't like that feeling of like, oh no, I have something that I haven't done yet, and I don't
Yes.
feel like 5 minutes is enough time to take care of it. So yes, I do set aside time at the beginning or at the beginning of the week to make sure that I have taken care of everything that I needed to take care of and follow up with from the previous week, as well as structure the next week going forward. And then supporting BNI outside of those things, yes, I have found it very easy to support our nonprofit, Laura Cantrell. She puts out information for when they have events going on, and whether it's just going and volunteering. We did one of those together. I enjoy doing that and being able to be supportive of our nonprofit in that way. We'll also be supporting the nonprofit through the business as well, in a variety of ways. And then opportunities like Reese Hodges put another thing out for local school community fundraiser. And we're able to donate to silent auctions left and right. So anybody who needs silent auction stuff, please let us know. We're happy to donate. And that's a great referral for us, because if they come and use it, they usually stay as a member. So,
Right.
so yes, opportunities like that where we can either volunteer in the community or donate our services to benefit something that's going to be for either someone directly in our nonprofit or connected to one of our other BNI members.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, all right. Well, there you have it, folks. So you got some opportunity to do some business with Andrea. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for listening. If you are on YouTube, I have to remind you, because I only have, I think we're at 55 subscribers, and I'm heading to 1,000. I'm a little short. So if you're on YouTube or you're not, please go to YouTube. If you're a member, that's how you support me, is go to YouTube and subscribe to the BNI, the Perfect 100 channel. I appreciate you doing that, and we will see you next time on the Perfect 100. Thanks for listening to the Perfect 100. If today's episode sparked a new idea or inspired you to show up differently in your chapter, share it with your team, and be sure to subscribe so you never miss a conversation. And if you're curious about your own CliftonStrengths and how to bring out the best in yourself or your chapter or your business, head to TammyZurak.com to learn more about building your superpowers into everything you do. Keep showing up, keep connecting, and keep building your Perfect 100.